Alright, let's dive into something that's been making waves recently: Dr. Anthony Fauci invoking the Fifth Amendment during a Senate hearing on COVID. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me just say this: personally, I think this situation is a perfect storm of politics, science, and personal vendettas. It's not just about Fauci or Rand Paul, it's about the broader implications for how we handle public health crises and the role of experts in a polarized society. So, let's break it down. First off, the hook here is Fauci's decision to invoke the Fifth Amendment. If you're not familiar, that's the constitutional right to avoid self-incrimination. Now, what makes this really interesting is that Fauci isn't just any witness, he's one of the most recognizable faces of the pandemic response. For him to take this step, it suggests he feels genuinely threatened by the proceedings. And let's be clear, this isn't a typical move for someone in his position. It's a bold, almost desperate, play to protect himself. But from what? That's where things get messy. Fauci's main antagonist in this drama is Senator Rand Paul, who's been on a years-long campaign to hold Fauci accountable for what he sees as missteps during the pandemic. In my opinion, Paul's obsession with Fauci goes beyond legitimate oversight. It feels personal. I mean, releasing Fauci's personal journal? That's a level of aggression that raises eyebrows. What many people don't realize is that this isn't just about policy disagreements, it's about a deeper ideological clash. Paul represents a libertarian skepticism of government authority, while Fauci embodies the scientific establishment. This isn't just a fight, it's a battle of worldviews. Now, let's talk about Fauci's decision to plead the Fifth. One thing that immediately stands out is how unusual this is. Fauci has testified before Congress over 200 times in his career. He's no stranger to tough questions. So, why now? If you take a step back and think about it, it's because the stakes have never been higher. Paul has openly called for Fauci's prosecution, even suggesting he belongs behind bars. That's not just political theater, it's a threat. And Fauci's lawyers clearly think there's enough risk to advise him to stay silent. This raises a deeper question: how did we get to a point where a scientist feels the need to invoke constitutional protections to avoid testifying? It's a troubling sign for the state of public discourse. Paul's response to all this is, frankly, predictable. He argues that Fauci has nothing to fear if he tells the truth. A detail I find fascinating is his claim that Fauci could even admit to past mistakes without risking perjury. But here's the thing: what this really suggests is that Paul isn't interested in the truth, he's interested in a confession. He wants Fauci to admit wrongdoing, not to clarify the record. And that's a dangerous game. It's not about accountability, it's about vindication. Now, let's zoom out for a second. From my perspective, this whole situation is a symptom of a larger problem: the politicization of science. Fauci became a polarizing figure during the pandemic, not because of his science, but because of his association with the Biden administration. What this really suggests is that in today's hyper-partisan environment, even the most respected experts can become targets. And that's terrifying. If scientists can't speak freely without fear of prosecution or harassment, how can we expect them to guide us through the next crisis? Finally, let's talk about the preemptive pardon from Biden. Personally, I think this was a smart move, but it also highlights how toxic the situation had become. Fauci felt the need for protection, and Biden provided it. But Paul sees this as a challenge, suggesting the pardon could be contested. What makes this really interesting is that it adds another layer of legal complexity to an already messy situation. It's not just about Fauci anymore, it's about the limits of presidential power and the rule of law. So, where does this leave us? In my opinion, this whole saga is a cautionary tale. It's about what happens when politics and science collide, when personal grudges overshadow public health, and when experts become scapegoats. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just about Fauci or Paul, it's about the erosion of trust in institutions. And that's something we all need to worry about. As we close, I'll leave you with this thought: what this really suggests is that we're living in an era where truth is increasingly elusive, and accountability is often just a tool for political gain. So, the next time you hear about a hearing like this, ask yourself, who's really on trial here? The expert, or the system itself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.